Good afternoon, and welcome to Northwest Florida Forward, Reigniting Regional Collaboration. I'm John Daniel with Beggs and Lane, and I'm the chair of Florida's Great Northwest Foundation. We're so glad that you joined us this afternoon. This is something I really haven't done before, live streaming to an audience that I can't see, but I appreciate you tuning in to learn more about where we are with our regional Northwest Florida Forward initiative for regional economic transformation. Before we kick things off, I want to go over some logistics. All of today's presenters are here with me at Northwest Florida State College, and we want you to participate as if you were here with us as well. Even though you're not physically present, you can still interact with us through a live chat button at the bottom of your video stream. Shane with Northwest Florida's Great Northwest will be our MC online and will monitor the chat throughout the event. He will let the speakers know if any of you have questions. So don't be shy and be sure to participate. Now let's really kick things off and reignite our efforts for Northwest Florida. Again, welcome. I'm John Daniel. I've had the pleasure of being part of the foundation since it was created in March of 2018. As part of our mission, the foundation supports the Northwest Florida Forward Regional Strategic Initiative that you'll be hearing about today. You'll hear from a variety of speakers and learn why we need you as regional collaborators to become re-engaged in this effort, find the area that you're most passionate about, and take action. Nothing good in life happens without dedicated people working together for a common cause, and it's important that we do this together as a region, as Northwest Florida. Let's start today with a little history as to why Florida's Great Northwest now has a foundation. I want to be sure that you understand the difference between and the relationship between our two separate but intertwined organizations, Florida's Great Northwest and Florida's Great Northwest Foundation. So you have a clear picture of how we are all working together to the good of our 12-county region in Northwest Florida. To do that, I'd like to introduce you to our new leader, the CEO of Florida's Great Northwest and Florida's Great Northwest Foundation, Jennifer Conley. Jennifer is no stranger to many of you. She's been practicing economic development in Northwest Florida for well over a decade. She started her position on March 23rd, just as the pandemic lockdown started, but she and her team have learned not to let the pandemic slow down our momentum. With that, I'd like for Jennifer to come forward and give us some remarks.
Thank you so much, John. I too feel a little awkward presenting to our group of 7 here in Niceville, along with 2 video cameras. I kind of feel like I'm in a TV studio. But regardless, I'm delighted that so many of you have tuned in from wherever you are to hear about Northwest Florida Forward. But before we discuss the Forward strategy, I think it's important to do a little history lesson and talk about where we've been and why we're here today. In just a few weeks, Florida's Great Northwest will celebrate 20 years as a regional partnership, working to grow and diversify Northwest Florida. Our organization has seen many twists and turns over the past 2 decades, but I think our future has never been more bright or clear. FGNW's mission as a 501c6 organization is threefold. First, to promote Northwest Florida for economic growth and diversification, to advocate for economic development issues that affect the region, and to collaborate to improve regional competitiveness. And we are laser focused on those 3 areas with the goal of growing high quality, high-paying jobs for the residents of Northwest Florida. Around 2016 and 17, FGNW partnered with the University of West Florida, the Appalachia Regional Planning Council, the Emerald Coast Regional Planning Council, and Gulf Power to secure a grant from the U.S. Economic Development Administration. This grant was used to fund the development of an economic diversification strategy. After much work, we were able to develop a holistic regional strategy for economic transformation. This process was inclusive, was data-driven, and was actionable. At the end of the process, this strategy was branded as Northwest Florida Forward. Strategies are not made to be put on the shelf and collect dust, but I know I've seen it happen time and time again. Communities work so hard and spend so many dollars on strategic plans that go nowhere, and they are long forgotten. However, the Forward plan was different. We had already gained the attention, input, and more importantly, engagement of hundreds of community stakeholders through this process. We couldn't let the momentum fade. The strategy needed to find an official home beyond the steering committee, an organization who had dedicated staff that woke up every morning focused on putting this plan to action. Meanwhile, Florida's Great Northwest had finally come to terms with a settlement against BP for loss of revenue due to the 2010 oil spill, in which we were awarded $800,000. The leadership of Florida's Great Northwest took a long-term approach with these dollars and wanted to create an indefinitely perpetuating fund for the purpose of educating company influencers and decision makers about the many advantages of doing business in our region. FG&W determined it was in its best interest to create an endowment fund with these dollars. And through the generous contribution of $200,000 by Gulf Power, we were able to bring the amount up to $1 million. Because of these two opportunities, the need for an official home for Northwest Florida Forward and contributions to support an endowment fund for financial sustainability, Florida's Great Northwest Foundation was created. The foundation's focus on long-term strategy and investment will be a continuing source for support for the activities of both Florida's Great Northwest and the FG&W Foundation for years to come. So there you have it. Both FG&W and our foundation are equally important and work together seamlessly for the benefit of our entire region. So next, I'd like to move into the portion of today's agenda about the Forward strategy itself. Much work went into its development. It provided a candid evaluation of our economic development challenges and opportunities, informed by quantitative analysis, thanks to the University of West Florida's Haas Center. We coupled that with national best practices and qualitative input from across the 13-county region. Then a strategic action plan was developed detailing a matrix of goals, strategies, and tactics that were recommended by a nationally respected consulting firm. This plan was broken into 5 focus areas to allow us to make meaningful progress towards the plan's implementation. As you know, implementation doesn't happen without people there to do the hard work. And since Northwest Florida's inception, Northwest Florida Forward's inception, we've had many community leaders volunteer their time and talent to assist with the creation of the Forward Councils. There are 5 councils, and while they each have a separate mission, their main purpose is to work together to improve the business growth and economic competitiveness for Northwest Florida. And today, I'm excited to introduce to you the new co-chairs of each of our 5 councils. First, Business Vitality, and that council focuses on strengthening the region's economy through targeted recruitment of new businesses and supporting existing business expansions. This is the work that our economic development professionals do day in and day out, so it makes most sense to have 2 of our best leading the charge. With that, Roy Baker with Opportunity Florida and Scarlett Funuff with Power South are our council co-chairs for Business Vitality. Next is the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Council. This council focuses on fostering a robust ecosystem for innovation to drive future economic growth. Our two leaders for this council are Emmanuel Hernandez with Gulf Coast State College and Patrick Rooney with CoLab Pensacola. Our third council revolves around infrastructure. We know this is a critical component of any quality of place, and this council strives for state-of-the-art infrastructure that connects communities in every part of our region. Leading this council is Austin Mount and Caitlin Surame with the Emerald Coast Regional Planning Council. Fourth is quality of place. This council is focused on making all of Northwest Florida an appealing place for residents, visitors, and for a new generation of talented and creative people and companies. Leading this council is Juliet Milam with Gulf Power and Caroline Smith with the Appalachia Regional Planning Council. And finally, rounding out our areas of importance is, of course, talent. I'm not going to elaborate on this council because you'll get to hear from these lovely ladies in just a bit. But the leads of this council are Susan Gage with the Early Learning Coalition of Northwest Florida and Vicki Pugh with the Early Learning Coalition of Escambia County. If you're already on our distribution list, at the conclusion of today's meeting, you will receive an email with instructions on how you can get involved in any of these councils. If you want to be added to the distribution list, you can contact anyone at Florida's Great Northwest for assistance. Now is the perfect time to get engaged. We will begin meeting as individual council in January. And then we'll prioritize our strategies to focus on areas that are of most importance and make the biggest collective impact across Northwest Florida. So now I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, who is a product of the success from our Entrepreneurship and Innovation Council. Kelly Reeser, who is Managing Director of Tech Farms Capital, is here today to share a message of the great benefits that come from working together as one region. So Kelly, welcome.
Good afternoon, and I am so thankful that you, Jennifer, invited me to join you today. On behalf of myself and Steve Milloway, my business partner, we are grateful to be here today to share the story of Tech Farms Capital. Jennifer, thank you for your leadership. Board members of Florida's Great Northwest, as well as the Foundation Board, we are grateful to you for your leadership in providing the infrastructure for this collaboration to even take place. I am looking forward to the councils kicking off again in January because, as you'll see today, highlighted specifically from our Entrepreneurship and Innovation Council, there are positive steps being taken in the right direction to move our region forward and really to see that transformative economic development that we want to see happen. So I'll jump right in. Again, my name is Kelly Reeser. I am the Managing Director of Tech Farms Capital. And again, my business partner, Steve Milloway, is based in Panama City Beach. I'm based in Pensacola, so we really do flank the Northwest Florida region. And we do want to thank you for allowing us to be here today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our story, about who we are as Tech Farms Capital, what we're doing, and then I'm going to step back and then give you that necessary backstory, which provides context as to why we're here and a part of the Northwest Florida Forward Reigniting campaign. So broadly speaking, Tech Farms Capital was launched to address the gap of funding, the need for funding in early stage tech entrepreneurs across the Southeast U.S. Myself and Steve, we are emerging managers. We are creating a fund structure to generate outsized returns for our investors. We are focused on identifying the highest potential tech and tech-enabled ventures in the Southeast U.S. with a strategic emphasis on intelligent systems and cybersecurity. Intelligent systems for us is that hardware software play with an AI backbone. And of course, cybersecurity. If you are a resident in Northwest Florida, you are no stranger to cybersecurity and the need and the growing assets that we do have in our region. Investing in the early stage, pre-seed and seed ventures. And our approach by using a fund is to mitigate that risk. So we are very aware of diversification as a portfolio strategy, and that bringing forward mitigated risk for the investors that we're working with. We are building on our experience as successful angel investors, founders, operators, and economic developers. Steve Milloway, I've mentioned him a couple of times, and if you're in the eastern portion of Florida, you are probably no stranger to Steve Milloway and the work that he's been doing with not only Gulf Coast State College and their Advanced Technology Center and the Milloway Institute for Entrepreneurship, but he also runs a privately managed incubator called Tech Farms. And there he has approximately 10,000, I believe it's expanding to maybe 15,000 square feet of space that he leases to entrepreneurs. And building on Steve's unique background as a tech entrepreneur himself, I love our story being so very intertwined with Steve's personal story of being born and raised in Panama City. And he found himself fascinated by technology, became an electrical engineer by trade through the University of Florida. And when he looked up and said, "Where can I work? I'd love to go home," the only option for him in Panama City was government sector technology. So he had to leave our area in order to build his businesses. For 35 years, he spent time, energy, and effort in Arizona, creating some deep technology. Most notably and probably familiar to all of us is the USB 2.0. He deployed a very early iteration of Wi-Fi. And the OPA 111 is an operational amplifier that does make CAT scans high fidelity or acoustically allows sound to be amplified without a corresponding amount of electrical noise. So some really deep technology to his background. And his background has really built out the thesis that we're investing around. So that's the confidence that we have in investing in, again, intelligent systems and cybersecurity, is that through Steve's technical expertise and our board of advisors expertise, we can really deeply diligence the companies that we are working on. He's had some successful exits as well as some successes as an angel investor. And again, all of those things we are building on as we establish our fund. Myself, I am a Pensacola born and raised, and an economic developer by trade. So I had the privilege of working with Florida West, the Escambia County economic development entity, for 8 years, managing our entrepreneurial efforts, primarily through our incubator, CoLab Pensacola, and had I would say a sideline or cheerleader perspective of all the entrepreneurs that I was able to work with and the ventures that they were building, help connecting them with resources. And that's really the platform that allowed me to expand into this additional entrepreneurial support capacity. Additionally, on our team, we have a very sharp analyst, a gentleman named Justin Kingsbury, who has helped us build out our models, our fund structuring, and that sort of thing. He's a Pensacola Christian College graduate in business with an emphasis on finance, and he is just an avid reader and an avid up-and-coming finance professional, and we're privileged to have him on our team. So we've really built out this firm in response to this problem that we continue to hear. As I tell my entrepreneurs all the time, any entrepreneur that I work with, rather than coming up with what's your great idea, I would challenge them to listen to the conversations going on around them in their area of expertise and identify a problem worth solving. So rather than being super consumed by having the next great idea, become consumed by what problem can you solve and what is a real problem that someone has that they'd be willing to pay you for. And again, I'll go into how the Northwest Florida Forward process helps Steve and I identify this challenge. But our solution to the problem of lack of access to capital in our region is Tech Farms Capital Fund 1 It is a fund that we are raising capital for, attempting to amass $5 million in order to invest in early stage tech ventures. You can see here we are putting together a professionally managed fund structure, geographically centered on the Southeast U.S., where we lead investments at the seed and the early stage. From what that means is from us, $100,000 to $500,000 check size across 15 deals. And then tech and tech-enabled thesis. I've already touched on that a little bit with Steve's technical background, but focus specifically on intelligent systems and cybersecurity. So why are we doing this? That last bullet point, you can see there that our purpose really is that we believe with everything that we are in the power of early stage tech to truly transform communities and economies. So had Steve had an opportunity to return to Panama City upon graduation from college, he would have built his businesses and he would have invested his time, energy, and efforts in his hometown. Those opportunities weren't available to him. And he and I want to ensure that that doesn't happen to the next generation. So we want to be sure that private sector tech is firmly rooted and firmly established in Northwest Florida. So we also believe that the timing is right for the Southeast U.S. We believe that from a business climate perspective, as well as a talent perspective, we have the recipe for success, for innovation, and for investments to be successful in our region. So I promised you the origin story. So backing up to how we really got started. And you can see here the territory of Florida's Great Northwest. So we, myself being, do I have a question?
Yes.
Shane, give it to me.
So Kelly, Scarlett Knupp asked, what elements of the entrepreneurship ecosystem are still missing and could be strengthened?
Oh, Scarlett, great question. Thank you. So we're going to jump into that. And I actually will, if you'll give me just a couple more minutes, we'll jump into what the strategy has lined out, some of the advancements of the strategy, and then that will also allow us to have the conversation around what elements are missing. Just to briefly make sure I don't skirt your question, I would say that that it would probably be the intersection of entrepreneurship and innovation and the Talent Council. So I would like to say that we could see more activity in developing that talent pipeline of entrepreneurs, because as we're talking ahead of this event, that it really is about teaching from a very early age the mindset that if you want to bake cupcakes for the rest of your life, if you want to bake cupcakes and sell those to people, then think about what your end goal is before you get started baking those cupcakes. If you want to just make a job for yourself and sell from your local bakery, that's wonderful economic activity. But if you have a desire to create a scalable venture, then let's have that conversation and let's talk to our young people about the fact that that is possible in the ventures that they create. So that's maybe a longer answer, but again, we'll see that in the strategy as we walk through it. So I mentioned that I was based in Pensacola, originally managing CoLab Pensacola, and then Steve was doing Tech Farms. So we were the two primary incubators in the region. We, in Pensacola, began convening what we now still lovingly refer to as the EEG, the Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Gathering. We would meet once a month at CoLab, and we basically said this is wide open to anyone who provides a service or a support to entrepreneurs in our area. And let's just begin to get together and talk about, so we know each other's programs, we know each other's offerings, we know each other's metrics really that we're going to be measured by, and how can we collaborate and work together. So that began as a conversation really designed to identify the assets and then ultimately the gaps in our local ecosystem. We were approached probably about 6 months into that process. We were approached by Gulf Power and Florida's Great Northwest to say, hey, can we expand this conversation regionally? And we said, absolutely. What that looked like the first year was a quarterly roadshow. We would all get together and meet at a unique asset in the region for entrepreneurs. So we were at the University of West Florida at one point, we were at Doolittle Institute, and then and found ourselves in Bay County at Tech Farms, which that's where I met Steve. And we couldn't help but commiserate over some of the struggles that our entrepreneurs faced. And many of them and many of those challenges were the same, because our region was lacking a clear, coherent pipeline of talent for tech talent. But probably the most glaring and consistently referenced challenge was the lack of access to capital. And again, therefore, it was the birth of Tech Farms Capital and our collaboration in order to meet that challenge. excuse me. So I know Jennifer referenced a moment ago the different goals of the strategy, but in case you didn't memorize goal number 4 on the entrepreneurship and innovation side, I posted it here so that we could all get a refresher as to what were the strategies associated with how we can accomplish the goal of fostering a robust entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem and how that can drive our future economic growth. So, so you'll see here the different strategies. I did take it upon myself to highlight a few additional successes over and above what we would say, I guess, with the access to capital element. So bringing in the spring, and again, to anyone who's listening from the Eastern region, this might be a little bit Pensacola and kind of Western side focus. Just again, that's where I live, where I'm a little bit more familiar. But in response to strategy number 1, where we are to develop the region's entrepreneurial hubs and connect them with industry clusters, assets, services, networks, facilities, tools, and expertise, we've seen the birth of the spring. So that EEG conversation that was happening in Escambia and Santa Rosa County, we consistently found the need for a first point of entry to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Where does an entrepreneur landing in Pensacola, where do they go first? So similar to a triage point if you're going to a medical facility, or maybe a navigator if you're, again, to use a healthcare reference, the spring was born. The Spring Entrepreneur Hub, it exists to empower, connect, and grow small businesses in the Pensacola area, serving as the front door to our community's entrepreneurial ecosystem. So in response to the need stated by our entrepreneurs, the Spring was born. It is a collaboration of the Studer Community Institute, Florida West Economic Development Alliance, the Greater Pensacola Chamber, Gulf Coast Minority Chamber of Commerce, Gulf Power, Pensacola State College, and the University of West Florida Center for Entrepreneurship. And again, I would say the spring is evidence of what happens when collaboration occurs. When collaboration takes place, those partners get on the same page about what the need is, and they move forward with how do we solve that problem. This spring offers, in addition to those triage services, they offer a venture mentoring service, which takes MIT's world-renowned mentoring program and brings it right here into our community. So it's a very hands-on, a very evidence-based practice of providing mentorship services to small businesses and emerging entrepreneurs. So we're grateful to have that in our community. And then the other program that they run is called G-Beta. It's a pre-accelerator program providing education to a small cohort of entrepreneurs, allowing them to basically prepare themselves for venture financing or for growth. The next one that I'd like to highlight as a success is really how do we get our entrepreneurs in the region connected to larger pools of resources. So big pots of money that come down from the federal government in the form of SBIR and STTR grants, Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer grants. There are millions and millions of dollars out there available for entrepreneurs who can meet the need through their business, their good or service that they can sell back into the military or whichever federal program that they are applying through. And the Doolittle Institute has hosted over the course of the past few years 4 different training sessions to prepare entrepreneurs to get their businesses ready to apply for those grants. So Shane, I see we have another question.
Yes, Kelly, we have one come in from the co-lab in Pensacola. So what, kind of building off of the SBIR, what part do universities and other research institutions play in creating IP to feed entrepreneurship innovation?
Absolutely. Great question. This is a great question. The question, just again to repeat it, is what role do universities and research institutions play in fostering entrepreneurship and intellectual property that is created at those institutions? So I would say it is a huge untapped opportunity that we have in our region. I could speak again more broadly, but I'll bring it in hyper local, where University of West Florida, and then specifically in Pensacola, we've got the Institute for Human and Machine Cognition. And both of those institutions are their faculty members or their researchers are doing great things. They are figuring out technologies. They are creating things that didn't exist before. And so oftentimes it's either how do we empower that professor, that researcher to, with the knowledge, skills, and abilities to take that product to market. So leveraging that intellectual property, taking that product to market, or how can we collaborate and find entrepreneurs and find the business minded individual to partner with that researcher and take that to market. Or again, it could be that the institution licenses through an agreement that intellectual property to be used in a commercial venture. And again, it's a huge opportunity for our region. It's a tricky and often difficult connection to be made to make that right fit. But I will say one of our investments through Tech Farms Capital is exactly that scenario. There was intellectual property that was developed in Pacific Northwest Lab, and the government abandoned that for whatever reason after putting $12 or $13 million into developing out that technology. And the company that we invested in has been licensing that technology and finding commercial applications for it. So, so we do see it as a huge, huge opportunity, both from TFC from an investment perspective, as well as really growing out in our region some of the IP that's being developed here. So thank you for that, Shane. All right, and finally, an additional strategy that that was brought to light through the strategic plan was increasing access to capital for Northwest Florida entrepreneurs and developing a formal mechanism to access those funds and enter Tech Farms Capital. So the entity that I described to you, have been describing to you throughout this presentation, is really where Steve and I felt most compelled to get involved. And so through this and through the clear articulation of the need, Tech Farms Capital was born. I am happy to report that we are in business and operating, and wanted to just give you a little bit of an update on where we are and where we exist right now as far as our investments. We do have a current portfolio value of $380,000. So we've put that much money into startups. You can see here a little bit of a description of those. Would love to have conversations to go deeper into that with anyone who's interested. These companies, the technology is pretty fantastic, and the teams that are building them are extremely compelling. You will see one that's based in Miami and New York City. You'll see the other is Tucson-based business with an office in Panama City Beach. And then our third investment is a homegrown Panama City Beach investment that we couldn't be more excited about, just the way that they're actually students that have come through our local pipelines. We believe that they are going to be a great success story for the region. So we're extremely excited about that. And I also wanted to just throw out a few additional prospective portfolio companies that we have. And it wasn't until just again preparing for this presentation that 4 of these 6 are headquartered in Northwest Florida. So so it can be done here. There are some examples of companies that have successfully built their ventures and scaled and exited those ventures in our region. So to me, what that does is creates the momentum for the entrepreneurs to look around and say, wow, App River started in Pensacola, they scaled in Pensacola, and they exited very advantageously in Pensacola. Well, gosh, I can do it too. So so there is that momentum that we see in from our vantage point in the entrepreneurial community. We see that I believe one of my favorite statistics was in 2013. I'll define briefly. A unicorn is a company, a private company that, or public company, I guess, it is valued at over $1 billion. And in 2013, there were 4 ecosystems that housed those unicorns, right? Does that make sense? So Silicon Valley, New York City, probably Boston, and probably Austin. So there in 2013, there were 4 communities that could host that size of a company or support that size of a company. And in 2019, it was 84 ecosystems that could house a company valued at $1 billion. And our belief is that Northwest Florida is the next on that list. We believe that we have what is needed to grow those companies in our region, and we want to see them grow, scale, and exit from our communities in Northwest Florida. And Shane, any additional questions? I know we fielded a couple.
Yes. So Kelly, are there any programs that target veterans and minorities in our ecosystem?
Are there any programs that target veterans or minorities in our ecosystem? That is a great question. And I know through the years that we have had some, we've had an accelerator program that was Venture Hive that was hyper-focused on veterans. There is a Veterans Resource Center at the University of West Florida. There are a few additional programs that off the top of my head, I cannot, I can't think of them right now, but I can definitely get all of that information to Jennifer and really be able to map out the resources available to different types of entrepreneurs. And I appreciate the question even on diversity, because I will say that's something that I've seen as a female in this space. There is a concerted effort in the venture capital industry to put more decision-making and investment decision-making in the hands of diverse investors, because of the, statistically speaking, they are more inclined to invest in diverse founders, therefore spreading the concentration of wealth and really affecting the challenges that diversity often brings in our community. So there are definitely programs, and off the top of my head, I would reference you in Pensacola to the spring, because they do have a full asset map of those programs. And then Jennifer, I'll get her some more resources for areas outside of Pensacola. Any other questions, Shane?
Yes, so Kelly, this will be one of our last ones. Are there any trends that you are seeing in the funding landscape in our region that are going on currently?
Great question. So are there any trends in the funding landscape? So what I just referenced as far as there is an intentional push in the industry nationwide towards diversity. So towards minority founders, towards women founders, and being more intentional about putting the investment decision in diverse investors' hands, because they're statistically more likely to invest in diverse founders. So I would say that that is one. I wouldn't say that I see that in the Southeast more broadly, but really nationwide. And I think that I see, and it's in part because we have been well received as we've been reaching out to other investment firms, is we are seeing that collaboration is the word of the day. That investments used to be so tightly held because it's a zero-sum game. If I let you in, then that means I'm going to lose out. And so I would say a trend that I would see is as collaboration amongst funding entities. So not only is it smart business because it mitigates the risk, but it does also say that you bring expertise to the table, and I'd be willing to collaborate with you on that deal. So those are a couple of trends that I'm seeing in the region. So that's all the questions that I had. Thank you again for your time, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It's so invigorating to hear a success story and some great things that came from our Entrepreneurship and Innovation Council. And certainly thanks to you for the work that Tech Farms Capital is doing in the area, and in the Southeast. So a live stream event, our first. We're going to take just a second to fix a technical difficulty we've heard that some of you may be having. So if you'll just bear with us for 1 minute, we're going to see if we can't get that. Yeah, good to go. All right. Thanks for the momentary pause and letting us get reconnected. Hopefully that some of you who are having difficulties are now able to hear us more clearly through the live stream. So now that we've heard a success story from Kelly, I'd like to turn the page and talk about the resurgence of another council. Talent remains as one of the most critical issues facing businesses today. And we know through the great efforts made by the Florida Grade Level Reading Campaign and the Florida Chamber Foundation that an alarming number of children are not proficient readers by the end of 3rd grade. And this has a direct correlation to their future success as a student and then ultimately as an adult going into the workforce. And as I learned more about the current efforts around grade level reading, it became clear that if we linked our ERPs to our business and community stakeholders, like so many of you that are watching today, that we had an opportunity to make an even greater impact in our own communities. So this important topic, early childhood literacy, that is directly linked to the health of our talent pipeline, has now been elevated as a priority for the Talent Council. When I asked for 2 people to step up and lead this council to focus on this effort, it was without hesitation that these 2 ladies accepted the call to action. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce one of the co-chairs of this council, Susan Gage, with the Early Learning Coalition of Northwest Florida, to share some with us today.
Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to be able to talk to the audience out there in Facebook or live land. I don't know where we are actually, but it's just great to be here and talk about something that's near and dear to the council, the Talent Council's heart, and really probably to everybody in Northwest Florida's heart. And that's ensuring that we have a talent pipeline that's ready to answer the call to whatever employers need. Sitting back listening to Kelly and her success stories, I was just kind of in awe of everything that she's talking about and thinking, wow, that happens here in Northwest Florida. And, what can we do to make sure that continues to happen more? And we definitely think that by embracing the campaign for grade level reading, that the Talent Council will be able to help ensure that we do have a group of potential employers or entrepreneurs, whatever the case might be, for the Florida. Jennifer talked a little bit about some statistics or not statistics, but told a little bit about the importance of reading on grade level. And I think that kind of bears repeating as well. And so if you'll indulge me just a little bit, just let me talk to you a little bit about what the campaign for grade level reading is, and let the audience know that it's a collaborative effort between foundations and nonprofit partners, states, communities across our area to ensure that more children in low-income families succeed in school and graduate prepared for college, a career, and active citizenship. Notice we didn't say we want everybody to do the same thing. We want them to be the best they can be in whatever that is. They get to decide, and hopefully there'll be a place for them in Northwest Florida when they do make that decision. The campaign focuses on the most important predictor of school success and high school graduation, and that is grade level reading by the end of 3rd grade. Research shows that proficiency in reading by the end of 3rd grade enables students to shift from learning to read to reading to learn, and to master the more complex subject matter they'll encounter, beginning with their 4th grade curriculum. Most students who fail to reach this critical milestone falter in their later grade years and often drop out before earning a high school diploma. Yet 2/3 of 4th graders are not proficient according to national reading assessment data. And this disturbing statistic is made even worse by the fact that more than 4 out of 5 low-income students miss this critical milestone. And they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I would like to invite the audience to get ready to watch an epic novel. We do have a very quick video that talks more about the great campaign for grade level reading, and I think gives a wonderful overview of what we are hoping to accomplish in Northwest Florida. So if technology will work with me, we'll see, and hopefully you guys will enjoy this video.
Meet Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and Jordan, and Jamie Johnson. 2 beautiful babies born on the very same day. Each baby has a good chance of landing in a good place in life, as long as one of them doesn't lose the zip code lottery. Like 1 million babies each year, Jamie's been born into a low-income family. And since Jamie's mom lacked access to good prenatal care, Jamie is much smaller than Jordan. And since they won't have access to brain-developing activities found in high-quality childcare, low-income children like Jamie will be 2 times more likely to experience developmental delays. It probably won't surprise you that by their 3rd birthday, Jamie's been exposed to a lot fewer words than Jordan. A whole lot fewer. And I imagine Jamie's 4th birthday won't be much better. By the time they reach kindergarten, Jamie will have already fallen behind Jordan in language and pre-reading skills by 12 to 14 months. And getting to school on a regular basis will be perhaps will cause between 5 and 7.5 million Jamies to be chronically absent this year. But with summer right around the corner, you'd think Jamie would have plenty of time to catch up with Jordan then. Sadly, summer presents new challenges for Jamie. A mountain of challenges. You see, every summer, Jordan's learning will evolve by a month because of access to libraries, field trips, and camps, while Jamie will lose 2 months of school learning every summer because good habits such as reading haven't been reinforced. By the time they reach 3rd grade, Jamie will be between 2 and 2.5 school years behind Jordan in critical reading skills. And how much more likely is Jamie to drop out than Jordan because he can't read at a 3rd grade level? 13 times more likely, and the results of which are frankly catastrophic. Wait just 1 minute there, folks. The story doesn't end right there. Fortunately for Jamie and Jordan and all of us, there's a whole lot of folks out there that believe neither luck, nor lottery, nor zip codes should dictate Jamie's future, who also believe that our schools can't do it alone. Luckily, there are leaders, organizations, and good people out there that are dedicated to believing in a whole lot more. The solution right now is relatively straightforward, if we can commit to 4 things. Number 1, we need to make sure our kids are healthy and ready for school. Number 2, we need to ensure they grow up in a word and book-enriched environment. Number 3, we need to engage them in healthy and educational activities over the summer. Number 4, we need to make sure that Jamie attends school every single day, because at the end of the day, you and I both know that lotteries, zip codes, and plain old dumb luck don't really author our children's future. We do.
So thank you so much for watching that video. It is always sobering to hear, but it's also inspiring. And inspiring not just because Morgan Freeman is the one who's actually narrating that video, but because it just gives us a pretty good call to action. And Jennifer, I have a request that I didn't ask you about earlier, but I think we should get Morgan Freeman to do some more narration for some things that we're doing. You think you can make that happen?
Let me make a phone call.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. And just to let our audience know that all those schools must be held accountable for helping children achieve. Our campaign is based on the belief that schools cannot succeed alone, that engaged communities mobilize to remove barriers, present opportunities, and assist parents in fulfilling their roles and responsibilities, help all of us work together in the success of children, and make sure that we as a community, and in our case, in Northwest Florida region, are doing all that we can do to ensure student success. So as part of this, the 4 early learning coalitions that make up the area are involved in some good collaboration work and got together and said, hey, I think we need to do this. So we got together, applied to be a campaign community, and were officially deemed the Panhandle Campaign for Grade Level Reading. And as such, are officially recognized with national fun stuff and all that. It's more stuff behind the scenes. But the important thing is we're putting actions to the words that we're saying. And so in each of our counties, there's efforts underway to identify and assess current programs and activities that are targeted to Florida's youngest learners and their families. And these efforts will help ensure that each county has children that are ready for formal school success, which ultimately will lead to a talent pipeline of skilled workers ready and available for you as your company grows. And so what I'd like to do is introduce my partner in crime, the co-chair, Vicki Pugh, with the ELC of Escambia County. And she's going to talk about an initiative that her coalition has been doing for about a year or so with this campaign. And we look forward to hearing about it. Thanks, Vicki.
Thank you, Susan. What we have in Escambia County is called Escambia Reads. It's not showing up on the screen. There it is. What we did, our grade level initiative has been going on about 2 years. We started meeting under an umbrella of Achieve Escambia, which is our local collective action network, collective impact network. And we teased out, with the help of partners and community, 4 determinants in our area that we think contribute to poor outcomes for 3rd grade reading. And those you see on the screen: household health, pre-K and early learning, attendance, and summer learning. And these challenges and barriers hit the whole family, which obviously in an elementary school child, the whole family has to be treated. So we chose a zip code, the largest zip code in Escambia County, as our community, and that's 32505. There are 5 elementary schools in that zip code. It also has the highest concentration of poverty, the highest teen pregnancy, ER visits, a lot of those detriments that go along with being in a zip code where there are food deserts, especially grocery stores. There are childcare deserts, very high concentration of very poor housing choices. So we used data that was already out there, and with partners that were already invested in our community. And we developed these goals and strategies to feed into the overarching guidance, or the overarching goal that we have for Escambia County, and that's to improve 3rd grade reading levels by 10% by 2027. And so we went for low-hanging fruit. You want an early win. It keeps people pushing. So using data, setting goals, and setting strategies, we looked at the 5 elementary schools in that zip code. And what you see is data, again, that's already available. You can get it from your Department of Education, your local school district, the Office of Early Learning, and from your Early Learning Coalition in many cases. What you see here is the percentage of students reading at level 3 or above in those 32505 district schools. What I like about this is it shows you that it fluctuates. It's up and down in every school. Brentwood Elementary reading scores, as you see, remain the highest, but when you look closely, it still shows that only half are barely reaching grade level reading. Now, some of the outliers that go with every school, an example back to Brentwood. Brentwood is a magnet school for technology. So parents, it's a school of choice. Parents choose to take their children there. So maybe that has something to do with their scores being a little higher. And then it shows that Oakcrest remains a low performer. This slide is the percentage of students ready for kindergarten, 2016, 17, 17, 18, and 18, 19. And again, you see it fluctuates back and forth. And what's unfortunate is even with at the highest point, which was global learning in 2016-17 with 47% of their children were at grade level, that still shows that all of these schools are below state and national averages as students ready for pre-K or for kindergarten. Now, a kindergarten assessment is given within the first 45 days of your kindergarten year, and it's given on a computer with a mouse. So we do know a mitigating factor in the 32505 zip code is many students don't have internet service at home. Yes, they might have a phone. They might use their mom or dad's phone to play games on, but there's a big difference between swiping a phone and clicking a mouse when it comes time to take an assessment. So, how might that affect test scores? Well, you tell me. So coming up with a solution can be something as simple as computer stations in each voluntary pre-K classroom, or internet access and computer stations at people's homes. Then we see pre-K enrollment. Now you notice we backed into this data. We backed in from the obvious, where we are now, and kept going backwards. So this is pre-K enrollment. Now what you will notice is there's an asterisk. Brentwood did not have available VPK enrollment numbers, and that's because Brentwood Elementary doesn't have a VPK classroom. So we know through research that children attending a 3 and a 4-year-old preschool, even if it's not high quality, just attend preschool, will score higher on those kindergarten readiness assessments than children who don't. VPK enrollment shows on this chart is lowest at Oakcrest throughout the years. So, we and that's the goal, started looking at what could be some of the barriers to that enrollment. Is it transportation? Is it transient parents? High poverty parents move a lot. They do a lot of couch surfing. So even though you may start at a school, you might not end at a school. We do know there's only 5 childcare programs in that 32505 zip code. And we also know that those 5, they do have 3-year-old programs, and they do have 4-year-old VPK, but they don't necessarily feed into Oakcrest Elementary. We also know there's no early Head Start at Oakcrest Elementary. Early Head Start is for 3-year-olds. So when you look at the numbers for CAYs, which are the blue, you see a full service community school, which means it has a whole child, whole family concept. They have health clinic for children and their families. Teachers conduct home visits. Lots of money, but more importantly, lots of resources are poured into CAYs. And CAYs continues to have at least one early Head Start program. So our goal was to boost. We decided, again, we're back to low-hanging fruit. We decided our goal would be to boost pre-K enrollment. Well, it's easier said than done. So some of the things we did, we coordinated and convened a little unified team with, Early Learning Coalition, Head Start, Title I. eCare is our Every Child a Reader in Escambia. They're a phenomenal volunteer group that work closely with VPK children on literacy and emerging literacy strategies. We worked on understanding the barriers to the students and their families, and with a real true focus on equity, because grade level reading, as well as anything in this talent council, is all about equity of opportunity. Equity of opportunity. Your zip code should not determine how you're going to turn out. Then we worked on training partner sites for increased access. In order to enroll in voluntary pre-K, and voluntary pre-K is the only true entitlement program in Florida, every child that turns 4 on or before September 1st is entitled to voluntary pre-K. So it's universal and it's free. And it manifests itself differently. Private childcare may only do a 4-hour day. School system, though, usually bundles their Title I dollars, maybe some Head Start dollars, and you get a 5.5 to 6 hour day. So we try, but you can only enroll in voluntary pre-K online. So we're back to, equity of opportunity. Do you have, it's real hard on a phone to even take pictures of your documentation and send it in to the Early Learning Coalition. So we increased our partners, the library, our Healthy Start nurses. Yes, they do go out for birth to 3, but many times in that 3-year-old has an older sibling. So it really, really helped. And then we implemented a public awareness campaign. We used an AmeriCorps Vista, and she literally went door to door in our housing authority partners and public assistance housing, and we saw an increase that year of 1.1%. Now, granted, that's a small increase, but it's powerful and it's moving forward in the right direction. So, across the Panhandle, we are now in a unique position to truly tackle complex problems in our communities. So we need your heart, hands, and feet for the Talent Council. Your hearts because you care, your hands to reach out, and your feet to keep moving this forward. We hope you'll join us. We know that we will be seeing new initiatives launched every day, and we also know that we'll see new iterations of current initiatives. Are there any questions, Shane?
Yes. So Vicki, we have a couple of questions actually. So for people, when we talk to Escambia County has done a great job with Escambia Read, but are there any other initiatives like that going on across at other communities in the Florida Panhandle?
The question was, is Escambia County seems to be further along. We are a little bit further along in this initiative. We've been working on it about 2 years. I think Susan can answer that question better than I can. That's part of this whole Panhandle regional collaboration.
Thanks, Vicki. Real quick answer is we are in the process, the discovery process. We're doing analysis of the 14 or so counties to see what exactly everybody is doing and putting them all together and kind of lining them up to see where they fall on a spectrum of types of projects and things like that. So while the Escambia program is highlighted here, we do recognize there is other work that's going on, and we're just trying to catalog that work and then move forward cohesively with the stuff that the council and the campaign will be working on together.
So if a company is interested in helping out with temporal literacy across the Panhandle, who is a good point of contact for them to contact about getting involved?
Oh, that's a great question, which was if a company is interested in helping with literacy campaigns or in some type of, just wants to get more information about what to do with the Talent Council. Both mine and Vicki's contact information is there, and you could reach out to one of us or both of us if you don't trust, or Jennifer even with Florida's Great Northwest to get into the right place, and we can line you up with the direct entity in your specific county or town or city that you are most interested in working with. Okay. All righty. Thank you, guys.
Susan and Vicki, thank you so much for your hard work on third grade reading initiative and for chairing the Talent Council. This is really important work, and I'm proud of the foundation and Florida's Great Northwest for adopting this project. You know, when it was first mentioned, my question was, what does this have to do with talent and economic development? And I've learned a lot since then, and I hope you've learned a little bit today listening to Susan and Vicki. But, one thing I've learned is that through the third grade, children are learning to read. After the third grade, they're reading to learn. And if they can't read after the third grade, they can't keep learning. And consequently, they can't become the type of talent and worker that we need in our community. In one sense, our talent council has taken the long view on talent because a third grader obviously is not going to be in the workforce for another 9 or 10 years at least. But on the other hand, I've learned that companies and that are looking at our region, that third grade reading proficiency is a metric that they look at here and now. So whatever we can do to increase third grade reading proficiency will help not only the child, and that's very important, but it'll also help our community both now and in the future. So I commend Susan and Vicki for their hard work, and I hope that those of you out there listening to this can get fired up about it and find a way and contact Susan and Vicki or Jennifer and see how you can get involved, because we certainly need your involvement in this. I want to thank Kelly Reeser also for sharing her success story. Very interesting, very good work that Tech Farms Capital is doing. And I encourage you entrepreneurs that are listening to get in touch with Kelly and see what she can do to help you. And I'm proud that our Northwest Florida Forward initiative did have something to do with Kelly's success and supported her in her work. I want to thank again Jennifer Connolly for her leadership and coming on board at a very tough time in our community and keeping things moving smartly and doing great work. And it certainly doesn't hurt that Jennifer is so well known and well respected in our region. And we're proud to have her leading our organizations. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Scarlett Faniff, who is with Power South and is the chair of Florida's Great Northwest. She couldn't be with us today, but want to recognize her and the great work that she's doing and the time she's devoting to our regional economic development. So we're now at the end of our program. We hope that your interest has been piqued in one of the 5 council areas. Moreover, we hope that you've maybe that we've ignited some passion in you to become involved and help us. We need your time and your talent. And so contact Jennifer, contact any of us who have presented today. If you're of a mind to get involved, we'd sure like to have you. Many of you have in fact been with Northwest Florida Forward from the beginning. And so if you've fallen away, come on back. We could use your help. And I'd be remiss also if I didn't ask you for your money. So Florida's Great Northwest, we're an investor member organization. Contact Jennifer, look on Florida's Great Northwest